I don't need help.
This is a lot.
I don't need help. I need more art supplies. That's what I need.
Who's gonna tell him? So what's the first thing you do when you teach somebody about oil painting?
We go over supplies.
We should probably do that.
Yeah, I mean, how would you know what to even do with the stuff that's put out in front of you if you don't know what the purpose of each of those things are?
Yeah, very true.
Let's do it right now.
Yeah, let's do it right.
Like right this second.
Like right this second right here.
Let's stop wasting time.
Like actually, let's do it like 5 minutes ago.
Lonnie, oh my gosh. Okay, so show us what a palette looks like.
Okay, so firstly, you're gonna want to start with your white.
Okay.
Get some yellows in there.
Okay.
Some reds.
Okay.
Blues, of course. And finish it off with a black.
Here's a color wheel. And on the color wheel, what we have is everything that's above this line right here is going to be our warm colors. And everything on the other side is going to be our cool colors. And they're only warm and cool by comparison.
Yes.
So there's no such thing as like absolute warm and cool.
Yeah.
So I think that's where everybody kind of is confused.
But out of this whole palette, this will be my choice in palettes.
I don't blame you. It's a great palette, right? The Zorn palette.
Forward.
Yeah.
Can get most of what you need, especially for things like portraits. There's Zorn.
Wow. So they're your warm colors.
And there's cold.
But it could be easily argued that this is a cooler color than that, right? This is your red. This is your red plus little black.
Yeah.
So this is a cooler color. But by comparison, this is even colder, right? And way colder. And this is like ice cold.
Yeah.
So it all depends. It's all relative. Now, if I introduce blue into all of this entire palette would look insanely hot.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So I think that's where everybody gets confused. Like, look at once there's blue, some element of blue introduced, the whole thing is warm by comparison.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what these colors actually are. So we'll put them back. And titanium white, standard.
Yep.
Great color. It is a very icy white, though. So it's hard to get a warm white without adding maybe a little bit of yellow ochre to pinch of red. Then we have cadmium yellow light. So why light and not just cadmium yellow? Leans to orange. Cadmium yellow by itself is a little bit too much of an orange color. Way too similar to the yellow ochre.
Need more of a
It's kind of lemony. Yellow. Yeah, it's got a lemony quality to it. And there are some yellows that are even colder, but I would just stick with this one. This is yellow ochre, a standard that everybody has, right?
Yep.
It's been around forever. And yellow ochre is going to be a great warm yellow, has a nice mustardy tone, and is very commonly used in both portraiture and landscape. Cadmium red, again, this is a cadmium red light. So that theme of light keeps coming back up. Cadmiums tend to run really hot, right? And then the process that they use to make the cadmium red, it's going to actually get almost a little purple with just flat cadmium red. So the cadmium red light has a tone that has a hint of orange in there. Get that extra punch.
Yeah.
Then you've got, does anyone know how to pronounce this?
Quinacridone.
That's right. But most artists refer to it as Quin Violet.
Yes.
And this is basically a magenta.
Don't call her by her full name.
Yes. She goes by her nickname. But it's basically a magenta, right? It's a nice rich magenta and it's extremely powerful. Okay, so next we've got our ultramarine blue, classic color. French ultramarine blue, I believe, is the more traditional form. But this is ultramarine blue. They used to actually get something called lapis lazuli, which most of it is in Afghanistan. And they'd break this stone down. It's like an opal. And they would break this stone down and beat it to death until it turned into this fine powder. And then this color came along, which is a synthetic version of that. And it replaced it. Great blue. Nice purpley blue, right? Then we have cobalt teal, which is essentially a cyan. And then an ivory black, right? So ivory black, again, a nice cold black.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about why this set. Well, these colors here are essentially your primaries, right?
Yeah.
However, these are very traditional tones that you'll find, such as the Zorn palette. And then most importantly is that this cyan, this magenta, right, and this yellow. This is actually a very modern palette, which is what printers use.
That's printer.
Yeah, that's literally printer, isn't it?
Yeah, CMYK.
CMYK. So this palette for me is the most powerful palette, and it basically makes 95% of your colors.
Yeah, I've never really had an issue finding color I needed from this palette.
Yeah, I agree. So there it is. This is what we call the Master's palette, and it's, in my opinion, the best palette.
Yeah.
All right, so let me just put my matcha down.
Okay, that's not in the shot, is it?
No, I don't think it is.
Sure.
Here, I'll even check.
Yeah, no.
Wait.
No, I don't trust you.
Wait.
No. You know, we should probably go over brushes too.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a lot of mystery around brushes, and let's demystify them. There's all kinds of brushes, but basically they fall into two camps. There's bristle, and then there's sable brushes. Bristles were originally these really stiff brushes that were made from like hog hair. And then sable brushes were much softer brushes made from various animal hairs, such as mink and so on and so forth, right? So these are the synthetic versions of those exact brushes. And I like them because they hold their shape and they're very, very high quality. So these are what are considered flats. And obviously they're nice and long. And they have a flat top, so they're considered flats. There are also ones that are called brights, that are like a little shorter, and those make me crazy.
Yeah.
Because they're just too short. I like something that actually bends when I'm painting. So when I'm actually applying paint, I want something that has some movement to it, right?
What's the best application for a bright?
A bright will give you a really crisp, sharp line. So this one has a little bit of wiggle to it. But if your hand is steady and you pull cleanly, you'll get about the same brush stroke. Then, of course, rounds. This has been around forever.
Around forever? Ha ha.
I like that. That took me a second. Yes, this has been around forever. But these are great because you can get a nice thin line, a medium, and then a thick, depending on how much pressure you put on it. So these are still in use, and even though they're are considered archaic by some artists, I consider them to be among the best. You also have filberts. They're hybrid, right? They're round at the top. They have a curve, kind of almond shape. And they are great for portraiture, I think.
Yeah.
Because they offer both, right? They offer that curve and smooth turns and so on and so forth. You can get a thin line out of them. So those are great too. And then you need something that has covering power.
Big boy.
Yeah. You need something that'll really lay in paint.
Yeah.
Otherwise, your arm's going to get exhausted when you're painting. Okay, what's that one for?
Dusting.
That's right. You need a nice big brush that's clean and soft. And dust is the number one enemy of every artist. So this guy is strictly used for dusting. Some people will use it for blending, but that's a great way to ruin a really expensive brush.
Yeah.
I use a fan brush. Those are great for really softening up some edges, right?
Yeah.
If you put a lot of paint on, it'll give you like a tree-like effect, Bob Ross style. Or you can use a really, really soft brush. This is animal hair, and it's quite expensive. Fine detail, you ask? This is a script liner. And once it's loaded with paint, because of how long that is, right, it'll get nice and sharp. So you can literally write letters with this thing. And there's various versions and ones that are much smaller. Like look at this tiny guy.
Yeah.
So brushes are their own world. So that right there, a mop brush, right? It's actually a watercolor brush. And the reason why I sometimes use it is it's great for spreading paint and softening certain parts. Similar to the use of this, but I really use it just to like maybe soften up a shadow or something like that.
Okay, so starting off, basic, beginner, building your kit, what brushes do you want?
You want a large and a medium and a small of 2 brushes. 2 sets of brushes. And I would go with the synthetic bristles are probably the most versatile. So here's a 6, maybe a larger version, like an 8, and something like a 4.
And like when you're doing acrylic, oil, whatever type of painting, can you just use all the same brushes?
Acrylic and oil using the synthetics, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So is there any sort of brush that's like only to be used with acrylic or oil or a different medium?
I think that the natural hair Sable brushes for sure are for oil.
For oil?
I would not use those for acrylic. So there it is, a large, a medium, and a small, maybe something extra, extra big for covering power.
Yeah, for fine details.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, and then you just want some rounds. So same thing, you know, here's a large round, here's a small round, here's like a medium. And so I think all of those pretty much have you covered, and maybe like a tiny little brush like this for signing.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the set that we offer here at the studio.
Mm-hmm.
All the other stuff is just extra, I think.
Yeah. How do you organize yours?
I have a jar of my large, my medium, and my small.
You know, I really just don't think we need this many brushes. This seems excessive.
Really? I actually think we need more.
For like one painting? This is what you'd use?
I mean, you never know.
We have like 10 of the same brushes in here. Just clean them off.
You know, Lonnie, sometimes I wonder if you're an artist or not. Okay, so what can you tell me about surfaces?
I can tell you it's what you paint on.
Yep. So there's a million different surfaces. There's metal, there's wood, there's panel, there's stretch canvas, loose canvas, so on and so forth. It'll make you crazy.
Yeah.
Let's just focus on texture. That's the way I like to categorize them.
Okay.
This one's gesso board. And basically, it's just a piece of MDF. And it's treated with a special glue and gesso right on top.
Hence the gesso.
Yep. And it's like kind of got like an eggshell-like surface, which I really like because the paint sits on top. It's not sucked in.
Yeah.
Right? Then here's a canvas board. So the texture here is a little rougher. Mm-hmm. This is ideal for painting a landscape.
Okay.
Right? It's got grip.
Yeah.
And as the paint dries, it's actually going to suck the paint in a little bit.
Okay.
So you can really build and build and build and build on this.
Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite. That's oil primed linen.
Okay.
It's pricey.
It looks like it would be.
It is. But it's nice and smooth. I think these guys are great masterpiece. Mm-hmm. They are worth the money. And it's got a nice, soft, silky texture to it. But there's 3 surfaces. Keep it simple. Just find something that works for you. Especially in the beginning stages, these Winsor Newton ones are probably your best option.
Yeah.
I like the professional grade because they're good quality. They're not cardboard, so they don't bend. And anything that says archival or professional is what you want to use. Student grade is the worst. It'll just bend and warp.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about mediums and solvents, right? There's like a million different kinds of mediums and solvents. But here at the studio, we only use 2. Mm-hmm. Because I think these 2 will do almost everything that most solvents will do.
Yeah.
So this is Gamsol, which is an odorless mineral spirit, and it's commonly our paint thinner, which both thins paint to be applied onto painting, as well as cleaning our brushes.
Yeah.
Yep. And it's effective. And that's walnut oil. So walnut oil is to add into the paint to make it nice and slick. Mm-hmm. If you want your paint to dry a little faster, but you still want it nice and slick, make a mixture. Do you know what that mixture is called?
Simple medium.
Simple medium, right? So what does simple medium look like? Well, I happen to have some right here. There's simple medium. It's a 50-50 mixture of thinner and oil. I find that keeping it really, really simple and not getting too caught up with all of the different kinds of mediums out there allows you to focus on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
And I personally, in my own work, don't use anything else.
Why complicate things?
Painting's complicated enough.
Yeah.
So this keeps it simple and easy.
Yeah.
Canister. So this metal canister is fantastic. it'll last you forever. I literally think this one in particular is about 7 or 8 years old. And what it has on the inside is something that looks like a colander. And the idea is that as you put your paint brush in there and you rinse out your brush, it's stripping away the paint, which lands at the bottom. And with something this size, which is about 24 ounces, this will last you anywhere from, I would say on the short end, 4 months all the way up to a year until you actually need to rinse it out.
Yeah.
And what I also like about this is that you can travel with it. So when you travel with this guy, you want to double check to make sure that it's properly sealed and it's not going to spill. There you have it. I think there's a lot of confusion around all of this and people get way too excited. This is my personal collection.
Oh, like seeing here right now, I'm so excited by this.
Well, I mean, look, you go to the art store and you pick up one and you're like, well, maybe I need this one. And maybe I need this one. And maybe I need, you start getting really crazy with them. But understanding the purpose of a palette knife will tell you everything that you need to know. First of all, the Italians are the ones who really got into all of this, which is why it is called impasto when you're taking paint and scraping it off your palette and sticking it onto your canvas, right? So you need something that bends a little bit. That's a sign of a really good palette. If it's not bending, it's garbage.
Yeah.
So you want something that has this is kind of stiff, which is why I use this one strictly for the other use, scraping.
Yeah.
So you're either scraping or painting with it. Those are your only options. A lot of artists will say that you mix your colors using a palette, and that's fine. I prefer a brush. I have a little bit more control. So that's a third use. But in the studio, for the most part, we use these palettes for either placement of painting or scraping off color.
Yeah.
So I would say that what you really need is a small one of these guys. Let's pick that one. A medium and a large. A small, a medium, and a large. That honestly will cover 90% of what you're doing. And these in particular, this is folded steel. They're a little more expensive, but they're worth it because they bend really, really nicely. They have excellent scraping quality. They mix paint well. They do everything you need a palette knife to do. Oh, you're not allowed to have your cup in the shot. Yeah? How about that? How about that, Lonnie? I dare you to put it in the video. Okay, so in regards to palettes, there's all kinds of, there's wood, there's paper, there's glass, there's everything you can imagine. But let's just keep it simple and give you some basic ground rules. These guys are butcher trays, which I love. And at the studio, we use this Gray Matters paper. And the reason why I like gray is because white is just way too bright and it really throws you off.
Yeah.
So I don't care if you're using glass or wood or what, just use something that has a neutral tone. The convenience of all of this is to rip it out. And then these guys, they're okay. The problem is that if you don't lacquer them, then what ends up happening is that the paint gets stuck on here.
Yeah.
And then you lose the whole purpose of this neutral tone.
Yeah.
So if you find one that's lacquered, I mean, there's really nice ones, then great, use them. But otherwise, this is kind of garbage. If you want to keep your paints, you can get yourself a palette seal, which is basically the butcher tray, but with a lid.
Yeah.
And all you need to do is you put your paper inside, or you could put a glass palette inside. There's a million options.
Yeah.
But I personally like to have the paper, and then you can seal it, which will keep it wet for 4 to, let's say, 5 days. However, I've found paint stay wet for up to 2 weeks if I use this one little trick. So this is clove oil. And what you're gonna do is take a tiny little drop and put it into the corners of your palette onto like a makeup sponge or like a tiny little cutout of a sponge. And that'll keep your paints wet for I've seen it as long as 2 weeks.
Wow.
However, there's one caveat. Do you know what it is?
Don't get it in your paint?
Don't get it in your paint. You can get it in your paint if this is what you're looking for, but essentially it'll keep your paints wet for 6 weeks.
Oh.
Including on your canvas. So if you're the type of person that loves working wet into wet, put a drop into each of your paints. It'll take 6 weeks to dry. Okay, so let's talk about storage. Where do you keep your stuff? I love these wooden boxes. They're hard to find, but worth it. And this is one that's been well used. Brushes, paints. You've got your oil jar. This one doesn't happen to fit, but there's ones that are smaller, of course. And great way to keep everything organized, great way to travel. So wood boxes are great.
Yeah.
There's also plastic ones, which are fine, but I like the feeling of wood. I think the core thing is to just keep it simple, stick to the basics.
Yeah, for sure.
And really get a good understanding of what each of the items in your supply box are for.
Yeah. You know, speaking of supplies, I've noticed that the inventory counts just keep dropping randomly. Are you dealing your own supplies?
I plead the fifth.
I have to watch him.
These paints are like premium wines, you know? Like this is like a particular vintage. I mean, smell the cap. It's an excellent year.
Phenomenal year.
I'm telling you. It's good quality stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.